Welcome to the Cultivating Business Growth podcast, bringing you bi-weekly discussions designed to help you grow your business and create the lifestyle you desire. Elevate your business with proven strategies from virtual CFOs, CPAs, and business advisors. We discuss real-world challenges solved with actionable steps that get you the results you need, both in business and building the life you deserve.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us for episode number 181 of Cultivating Business Growth, brought to you by Willow Virtual CFO. If a client brings in revenue but drains your team, cash flow, or sanity, are they actually profitable? So by the end of this episode, we're going to give you a decision framework to decide, should you fire a client? Because there are multiple pieces of that decision that need to happen, and talking through it with somebody who is as analytical as a CPA can be helpful in making it not feel so personal, right? We're making this as a business decision. So in order to do this, we have Jaime Staley, partner here at Willow Virtual CFO. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Yes, I'm very excited. I'm not excited to discuss this topic. It's not a fun topic specifically, but I think it's one that really needs to be addressed because I think a lot of us hold on to clients for sometimes too long. So I think this will be a good episode to kind of talk through that.
Yeah. Well, and it can be fun in the aftermath, right? Because I think a lot of this leading up to it, you feel this weight on your chest and it feels just, you're in the state of, I don't know what to do. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. They've been with us for so long. There's so many thoughts that can be in your brain and kind of muddle the decision. But I feel like if it is the right decision and you fire a client, that immediate relief that you feel is like,
the relief is nice.
So worth it. So I think that's the fun part that we want to get to. And we want to help more business owners see that clarity and feel that relief of having the confidence to let go of a client that doesn't feel right for your business in multiple different ways, right? Because it can impact not only finances, but your sanity, your brain space, how you feel about delivering service, because we should be, on a whole, loving what we do, right? That's why we own a business.
Exactly. Yeah. Wouldn't it be amazing to be excited about every meeting you have with every client?
Right. That's, ideal world, but.
Exactly. And maybe you can't love and be excited about everyone, but you definitely don't want to dread it and want to avoid it. And yeah.
Yeah. Those clients that you're like, oh man, it's Wednesday. I may have to meet with them every, or whatever, So this episode is how to decide when a client is no longer worth it. We're going to use some math, as CPAs and accountants love to do, looking at profitability, cash flow, opportunity costs, and then the other M, the other side of this, which is the mess, the stress, the team burnout, operational drag that can happen when you have a client that doesn't fit maybe your values or the services that you offer. Maybe you've gone through growth. There's a lot of situations that can happen where the client just doesn't fit anymore. So to kick us off, Jaime, can you give us a CFO reality check with taking a look at the math of an incorrect client or a mismatch?
Yeah, there's a few things you'll want to take a look at here. The first one is kind of that true client profitability, not just revenue, right? Everybody wants to keep everybody because they're a paying client. And hey, I'm going to lose that revenue. But are you actually making money? What's your gross margin on that client? Mm-hmm. If you are, analyzing this on a regular basis, you'll know that. If not, you want to stop and take a look and maybe just analyze this client. If you're not doing it for everyone, that's fine. But maybe stop and just say, how much money are they bringing in? How much am I paying my team? How much is left after all the expenses? Obviously there's a lot of other expenses for the operations, but what's the gross margin? Are you at least making money there and making decent money there? Because if that answer is no, and you're having stress and not enjoying the client work, it's going to be a huge benefit to fire the client in that case, because you're losing money and you're gaining stress. So all of that can go away very quickly. With removing that or moving away from that client. But, look at other things too, like how many internal hours are you taking up with that? And that's, to do the work, that's kind of a part of the calculation to the gross margin. If you're doing if you have a product, what kind of product are you providing? What are the costs associated with that? Things like that. But are there other hidden costs like we talked about? Like, does this client constantly have rework that needs to be done? Are they always pushing the limit on what really is part of this engagement and always kind of wanting more or not seeming satisfied with what you do? That starts to make us question and doubt ourselves, but maybe it's just they're not understanding what they're getting. And then, are they sucking up time on a leadership call because we're having conversations about a client week after week, month after month, because the team is upset or, they're not treating people well and things like that. I have one example of someone I fired within like a couple of weeks because they came in, they wanted a tax return. They wanted it done very quickly. We agreed to all of that. And then as the process of onboarding, this person was very rude to our operational team. And I said, nope, we're not going to deal with that. Like we're already, being flexible and trying to push the deadline for this person. We're trying to do this. And I let that client go. And was I nervous to do so? Yeah. Did I want to do that? But the uncomfortable 10 minutes that I had to have a conversation, and it was probably 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I was relieved afterwards, to your point, right? Like, I don't have to deal with this lady who's not treating my team well, is already demanding. She's only been here for 2 weeks. I was like, no, like we can't even start down this path.
Yeah.
So that was the one that I caught early and nipped it in the bud, but it doesn't always happen that way. But just an example of it's just sometimes it's more about that than it is about money and it is about profit. So you just have to decide what those levers are and what is some, discomfort or not, the perfect client versus like, this is just not working and not a good client for us.
Yeah.
So for sure, look at client profitability, then look at cash flow behavior. Is this a client that's constantly paying you late, asking for extensions to pay, disputing the amounts on the invoices, right? Like that's, again, extra time on your team answering questions that they should have the answers to if you're proactive. I know we're always trying to be very proactive about that. And sometimes if we're not, we're happy to give some more information. But if it's a constant battle of what are you charging me? This isn't correct. It's just, you don't want to have to prove yourself every time you talk to this person, right?
Right.
If they don't want to pay, that's kind of a sign that they don't find value in what you're doing. So look at that as a red flag. You don't want to be stretching your terms to allow this client who is not easy to work with, not, fun to work with, maybe costing you money, and it's definitely adding stress to your life. You don't want to give them extra, flexibility.
Right.
You want to save that for the clients who are great and are on time and do things that they're supposed to do and appreciate you and value you. Yeah. So I definitely would take that as a sign. And then capacity and opportunity cost. This is something we don't always think about, but is really important. We could, you get worried about losing this client, right? I'm going to lose this client. Regardless of what the client is, it's revenue. And sometimes you don't have a lot of revenue to play with. So you are very concerned. But what if that client didn't exist? You could bring in maybe 2 good clients for the cost of the one really frustrating, annoying client. Yeah. And be happier because you have 2 people you enjoy working with versus one person that's draining you. So I think you have to also think about the opportunity cost. If you are spending more time and effort and energy on a client that you're not happy with, think about what if I let go of this client and found a new client that I enjoyed my time with. Definitely can change your day, change your, your company. So definitely think through that. And if you're a leader, you don't want your team, you don't want to, not pay attention and say, oh, you guys can handle it. I know this person's frustrating and I know they're, rude to you all the time and never respect you. You don't want them to have to carry that burden, right?
Right.
We have standards.
Just because you personally aren't having to feel the conversation.
Right, exactly.
And that it's not impacting your team.
Exactly. So you want to keep that in mind. If you have somebody that you trust and work with for a long time, continuously telling you that there's a problem, you want to address that problem and you want to figure it out and talk with the person. Maybe it's just a personality conflict. Maybe there's a potential to just move a client because they're really okay, but they're just not right for that person.
Right.
But yeah, you want to take a look at it. You want to see where you can spend your time on higher margin work as well. The more time you're spending on whatever this client is, you're not making as much money if it's taking you twice as much of your time.
Yeah, you can't do revenue generating activities if you're constantly having to put out fires because somebody's not happy or...
Yes. So I definitely would look at where you're wanting to spend your time and how much capacity you have, and then where your team is spending their time and how frustrated. Listen to your team.
Yep.
They're telling you things for a reason, and if you don't want to lose your team, you might want to lose the client instead.
Yep. Definitely. So I know it can be hard to kind of quantify the other side of stress. Like you said, talk to your team, get the input about stress and what's happening. But it's a lot easier to look at profitability from this client and look at the number of hours and say, okay, we're not making money, let's just cut them. Versus what if the client is profitable, but you have this mess side? So like we need to talk about the leadership and operational, like the business reality of what it's like working day to day with this client. And how do we analyze the non-numbers side of the problem?
Yes. As CFOs and controllers, we like to quantify what we can, but there are things that are just not quantifiable, and you have to sort of learn to gauge that, right? It's a skill that takes time. You learn better and better over the years. But things that you don't want to ignore is, the impact to your team. So if the team is dreading when this client's name comes up, or we don't want to talk about it, or it's always like
a cringe situation.
Yeah, cringe. They don't want to talk about it. They're very down. They're frustrated immediately just because you say their name. That's not the kind of environment, at least I know it's not the kind of environment we want in our culture. So, looking for people who are stressed out, emotional about it, burnout. You want to make sure your people are talking to you and telling you the truth too. Most of your team is probably not going to come to you and be like, well, I'm going to complain about client XYZ. He's a big jerk and he's always rude to me and never shows up on time and doesn't respect my time. So you have to figure out a way to ask. If you start to notice, hey, this person's not doing as well on their client work as they were before, like maybe I should have a conversation. How is the client? What's going on? Because if you don't seem interested, you don't have like an open door policy to, hey, I want to know what's going on. Please keep me in the loop. People may not tell you, right? And again, what's going to happen? That person's going to get fed up and leave because they really can't control it. So looking out for that high stress, burnout from your team. You typically know who your good people are too. Are they spending a lot of time managing bad behavior instead of delivering value? That's really not, what your goals are and what you're trying to accomplish. So definitely look at your team impact. And then again, as we talked about, like that operational drag, these are clients that tend to be constant exceptions to the process. Like, oh, I can't have that monthly meeting that everybody else has, and I don't have time for this, or I need you right now, like emergency requests. I have a fire drill, get on the phone with me in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Some of our clients maybe that's how we operate, but I know we don't operate that way. So I'm not going to be flexible for a client who's being difficult and help them with all these different things. So if you're constantly bending your standards just for them, that's not flexibility. That is the erosion of your processes and systems and, bending to just keep that client, right? And the question becomes, is it minor? You know what I mean? Like there's different levels of this. Like, oh, if they're once in a while questioning an invoice, is that like a constant? No, that's not a problem. Like, hey, they just have some questions. The clients that we're talking about, I'm pretty sure that you've all had them. I know if you've been in business long enough, I've seen good clients. I've seen frustrating clients. I've seen annoying clients and clients that I frankly just part ways with at some point because I just can't. And do we keep them longer than we should? Almost always. So that's us trying to be flexible, trying to work with everybody and feel like we should be helping them. But as a leader and as a business owner, you have to step back and be the one that says, no, we're not going to put up with this. This is not respectful. This is not how we operate. And that kind of leads into the brands and values alignment. I love that we have core values here every hiring decision, every client that we bring in, we kind of run them through that core value analysis. Kind of, do they align well? Are they, for us personally, like, we don't work with a ton of startups because those are high pressure, working all the time. That doesn't align with our core values of kind of that work-life flexibility for a lot of women on our team. So you have to look for alignment. If you have alignment, then it works well. Like, hey, I work part-time, or I'm working and I just need a part-time, support here. That works great for us. We want to be flexible. So you want to make sure that the people that you're working with as clients, not just your team, they are aligned with your core values as well, because that makes it so much better to work with. You won't probably run into these problems quite as much. And so I definitely love having core values. If you don't have those for your team, I would definitely start to think through what that looks like, because that's really important.
Yeah, it's a good gut check. And then asking yourself, I feel like sometimes we try to give that person the benefit of the doubt over and over and over again. But then if you ask yourself and you step back and you say, would I want more clients like this one? And if the answer is immediately like, ooh, probably time to let that person go, right? Like,
yes,
we like you said, especially if they fit like every other box, right, that your client would typically be in. They're in the right industry, they're the right size, all of these things are aligning. You want to make exceptions to make it work, or you feel like it should work, or, we create all these stories about like, this is what it should be. But if that's not the reality and that's not what is, you can't make a decision based off of what should be. So let's be real and look at what's in front of us and make a decision based off of what has happened in the past and what's currently happening.
Yes, I love that.
So we're going to break down this CFO decision framework of how to fire a client or how to decide what you should be looking at. And maybe we assign some points to each one, and that can help kind of break this down. And like I said, get some distance from maybe your personal feelings, your judgments that can kind of cloud that decision, right?
Yeah. I mean, just with any firing type of decision, you are trying to decide, hey, we just cannot afford this as a business, or we cannot, continue on this path because of XYZ. We're going to lose our team. We're going to, suffer too much. So we need to make these decisions. And so the decision framework we're going to talk about is a little bit about all the things we've talked about. So we're going to have a list. We're going to have profit margin. We're going to have cash flow behavior. As I said, are they pushing the boundaries, not paying you on time, asking for more flexibility, lower rates constantly? Capacity efficiency. How well is your team able to do the work? What kind of time is it taking? We want you to rank these from 1 to 5. 5 being they're really good. So profit margin is great. Put a 5. Profit margin not so great. You can put a 1 or a 2. Cash flow behavior, capacity efficiency, as I mentioned, team impact. Evaluate that on that scale from 1 to 5. Operational fit, and then values alignment. So I think that was 6 items. So just think through all of those things, or think through the things that are really important to you in your business, and you personally as a leader, and rank that from 1 to 5, and then do the math. Now, if all of the things within the math are good, like, hey, they have decent profit, cash flow is not bad, they're not causing any problems there, the team impact, operational fit, and values alignment are probably going to change a little bit of that. So if you add up and you're like, hey, actually the numbers look pretty good, but I'm still super stressed out and I don't want to work with them. Like the mess portion of our calculation, we're looking at kind of the math versus the mess. If that mess portion is just too strong, you can, if they have strong math and like they're profitable and you're not too bad, like maybe you can try to reset boundaries with this client. It depends on where you're at. Is this a client that you could sit down with and be like, hey, here are some concerns we have. Here's what's not working for us. Here are some changes we'll need to see to continue to work with you. If exiting is the next option, it can be an easy, like, no, I'm not doing that. Okay, well then this isn't going to work out for us. Yeah. But if you at least have an attempt to try to reset those boundaries, if you think you're getting some strong margins, the team, the amount of work that is happening, the efficiency is all good, and it's more of just the stress, frustrations, things like that. Obviously, if the math is poor and the mess is bad, you go right to the exit plan, which we'll chat about here in a minute. So that's kind of the easy one. Although, I say easy, but it's, you need to do it.
Yeah.
You need to definitely seriously consider doing it for the sake of yourself, your team, and your business as a whole. And then if you have that strong mess, like everything is actually pretty clean, like you're not frustrated, but the math is weak. Maybe they're not, great with profit. You're not, they are struggling with cash flow. Maybe you need to reprice or do a scope correction for what the work you really are going to do to help them either enable them to afford your services, or, product, or make a change there. And again, a lot of these may lead to I can't afford that. I don't like that change. Maybe it's best to part ways. So I think thinking through the math portion, how is it impacting you financially? And then the operational side of things, and how is it impacting your team? You got to kind of take them together and see how painful is one or the other or both.
Right. And obviously, like ideally in those situations where one's strong and maybe the other's weak, you can course correct and save that relationship, because that's, in an ideal world, we do want to help as many people as we can.
Yes.
And maybe something was unclear, or they didn't understand, or our pricing or scope needs to change, like you said, and we can just kind of bring it back in line and everything's good. However, if both are weak or those conversations don't go well, how have you navigated performing those exits? Because that can be a very high stress situation, even though I know you said it takes 5 minutes to have the conversation, but
the stress beforehand is much longer.
Yes. For a couple of days at least before, oh my gosh, I have to have this conversation. And you build it up in your head of like, oh my gosh, it's going to be terrible. So how do you combat that?
Yep. I think once you've made the decision, you just kind of have to have a plan in place, like how you want to exit. You want to make sure that you take emotion out of the conversation as much as possible. I've seen too often people, typically it's, team or people, or employees leaving, and they just get so fed up that they just kind of lose it and go off on a tangent. And you're like, don't do that. Don't do that. We understand your stress and frustration. And I've understood a lot of the folks that I've seen do that, but it's just not professional. And as a leader and a business owner, that's not how you want to operate. You want to make sure you're giving the person reasonable notice, not, well, tomorrow I'm done. No. Give them 30 days at least, unless they decide something different. Be willing to help transition to a new CPA in our terms, but a new professional that they may be working with. Be open to being helpful in that process, since it isn't their choice per se. You really want to protect your reputation. So you want to do it in a good manner. You don't want to give them any more to complain about, although they may find things to complain about regardless. You might want to talk to them depending on why you would be letting someone go. You can try to angle it in a, hey, we're changing our strategies, or we're shifting how we work and what we do, and we're just not really in alignment with you. For example, we've shifted from doing just bookkeeping work to doing higher level work. Well, some of the clients we had for a long time just weren't the right fit for that change. And so having those conversations saying, hey, do you want these services? This is what we're doing. And then it kind of comes to, some are, yes, great. Others are, oh, that's not really what I'm looking for. Oh, let me help you find, someone else to work with. So having the conversations, being open, being honest as you can without, getting too detailed sometimes. But you really want to avoid burning any bridges, right?
Yeah.
Exiting cleanly is a leadership skill. You don't know when you might run into this person again. You don't know when they might be your boss, they might be your child's dance teacher, or you just never know. So you always want to be professional when you exit, and plan to. And like I said, have a transition plan, help them out, give them advice on where to go if they need somebody else to help them in whatever you're doing. You likely have some referrals that, hey, this may be a better fit for you. So definitely plan it out, think through the best way to handle it. Make sure you set some time aside to talk with them. And then just be straightforward. And if they get very upset or frustrated or angry, which I've had this happen too, I just kind of repeat the same thing again, right? Like, I think the one I mentioned earlier where I had to let them go, they were like, wait, I don't understand why you're letting me go. I just need my tax return done. And, and it's like, I'm not going to argue about the fact that we don't treat our team. And then she's like, well, I didn't say that. Like, we're not going to have a debate about what happened, right? I'm like, unfortunately, we're just going to need to part ways. Here's how we're going to handle it. Here are the next steps, right? So some people get real upset. They don't want that to be the answer. And that's tough, but you just have to kind of stick to your guns, just kind of repeat some of the facts. Mm-hmm. Here's how we're going to handle this. I'll send you an email after this to summarize, anything to kind of move it along. But you don't want to back down, because there are people who are kind of strong personalities, right? And we'll be like, no, you're not going to fire me. So
yeah, keeping it short and sweet, I think, is key too. Like, not dragging it out and making a whole, monologue or speech about what's happening. Like, you just want to get to it, cut to the chase, have the conversation, and let them go, because you don't want to feel like you're wasting each other's time because you feel uncomfortable saying the thing. Like, just get it out, find something short and concise, and just do it. Just do it.
Just do it.
It's hard though. It's really tough. And if you're combating this, or you feel like you should probably take a look at your client list, and maybe you'd like some help in figuring out how to do that in a non-emotional way, or help digging into the numbers, you may want to talk to a CFO. And we are available for this type of holistic business growth conversation. We're not just doing taxes. We are helping you grow as a business owner. So these are part of the conversations that we have when we're advising and working with business owners on a day-to-day basis. And if you're interested in learning more about what that would look like, you can book a financial clarity call on our website at willowcfo.com/contact. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, subscribe and share Cultivating Business Growth with fellow business owners, so that you can continue spreading the wealth of knowledge that we're sharing here, and all these growth tips that are keeping you growing and keeping you serving the right types of clients too. I think that's the goal, and we want you to be happy with what you're doing overall. There's going to be bad days. We all know that, but overall, we want you to feel good, and we want your team to feel good. And that's the type of partnership that I see you guys building with your clients every day. So as we wrap up today's episode, is there any one thing that you think would be helpful for business owners if they're feeling this stress?
Yeah, definitely recognize that it's a potential problem you're having. Talk about it with other leaders, get their 2 cents. It helps to kind of bounce ideas off of each other. And if you don't have someone, reach out to a CFO, somebody who can walk you through, hey, think about this or think about that. Here are some, considerations you're going to want to take into account. But I challenge you, if you are feeling like this and are stressed and you're like, oh, if I just didn't have to deal with this person, I strongly advise you to at least consider letting go of that client to the point that Megan made, so that you can have and serve the people that you really, truly want to serve.
Beautiful. All right. Thank you for joining us. Keep that momentum going, and we will see you next time.